Welcome, everyone. I'm Liz Taylor, ocean explorer, naturalist, and entrepreneur.
And I'm Sylvia Earle. I am an ocean elder, explorer in residence at National Geographic, and founder of Mission Blue.
This is our show, Dive In, where we host informal and open conversations with the ocean community and with people from around the world on all kinds of different subjects. Later in the program, we are going to take questions and answers, and you can type them into the Q&A box. And we'll get through as many as we possibly can. I'm going to...
Even the raise a hand function, if we have time and if somebody's interested.
Yeah.
And where are we going today?
Well, we're going to try. Oh my God, no. Here we go. Oh, we're going to start off and remind everyone that
the world is
blue.
Yeah, never forget it. Look at it.
Wow. Today we are being joined by our dear friend Sharon Kwok. You can see her there. Hey, Sharon.
Hi. Hi, everyone.
Where are you, Sharon Kwok?
I have not turned off anything. Hello.
You can hear us. So you're joining us from Hong Kong this morning, yes?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
You're on the other side of the world. It's amazing.
Good morning from here, but good afternoon there.
Yes. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, we've got some... Oops. The last time you were here, you came to DOER and we played around with some robots.
Yes. Big ones and little ones.
Here you are with our...
That is an amazing piece of machinery, that thing there.
Yeah, that was the sub ice rover that goes underneath the Antarctic ice shelf through a 22-inch hole and then opens up into this massive vehicle.
And then you have to shut it all back before pulling it back up. It's just amazing.
Yeah. Like a Transformer toy, only it's not a toy.
And there you are in the driver's seat. Now we're playing with the submersibles.
Yes.
We've got to get these over there to visit you and go out and look at some sharks and things with them.
Dive.
Yeah, we got to get them all over the world. Yeah, last night I was going to 7-Eleven to pick up some milk. It was late in the evening, and I saw this pink Lamborghini on the road. Pink, okay, but yeah, to each his own. But I was just thinking, if you can afford something like that, why not these? Anyways, we need to get them into the water everywhere.
Here she is. Oh, are you back again? We can hear you.
Yeah.
There we go.
You fit right in. And away we go. Onward and downward. It's there to be done, and we'll be doing it too, for sure.
So we're going to do this little clip to talk to everyone about the Aqua Meridian, your foundation there.
Yes, this is an introduction to you.
大象呢係好有靈性，
啲大象咁聰明咁可愛，
唔會要佢絕種啩？
大家好，我係郭秀雲，歡迎大家今日嚟到米埔。
Hong Kong's Maipo Nature Reserve is an internationally significant wetland area. It supports globally important migratory birds and provides a conservation area for local wildlife. Aqua Meridian is keen to help promote Hong Kong government's efforts to educate the public and nurture a love of nature.
Well, I think that education is the real answer here, and we're trying everything that we can. I think we need to also work with the government. Wherever there's any avenues that we can educate, we need to go there. And hey, you're helping too. I respectfully urge that you vote in favor of AB 96.
If we don't do something about it right away, then it might just be too late.
今日中國咧就終於做一個象牙嘅燒毀嘅儀式啦。
中国国家林业局与海关总署今天在广东联合举行执法查没、象牙销毁活动。
I believe that there are a lot of people in China who do want to do the right thing.
由今日開始，香港政府就會將我哋海關充公咗嘅28.5噸非法象牙開始銷毀。With the support of the Hong Kong government, we've been able to host many events, and our annual Elephant Walk has steadily grown with the participation of people from all walks of life.
Ivory， 深愛地球。
Oceans cover over 70% of Earth's surface and provide us with food, water, and even the air that we breathe. From the smallest shrimp to the biggest whale, marine biodiversity is vital to our own existence. Through pollution and overfishing, we've already destroyed many beautiful habitats. We've also lost 90% of larger fish populations since 1950. However, if we act now to protect and preserve what we've got left, there's hope for a brighter future. And education is the key. Having a room full of kids from different nationalities avidly participating in conservation discussions helps them learn about the issues, but also aids in their communication and linguistic skills. That's why youth education is one of Aquameridian's vital missions. Aquameridian will be creating multilingual ebooks and more educational toys. We'll also be producing more educational videos, programming, and documentaries while continuing our mission to raise awareness and change bad cultural habits that are detrimental to biodiversity. We're looking forward to your support.
So, one of the reasons why we're so pleased to have you to speak with us, Sharon, is wildlife is in real trouble on the land and certainly in the sea. And people kind of get it, that animals on the land are wildlife, elephants, tigers, lions, pandas, But having you bring attention to wildlife in the ocean as wildlife, fish are wildlife too, really is something that you have embraced, and especially in not just Asia, but especially in Hong Kong, that is regarded by many as kind of the central headquarters for trafficking in illegal ivory and shark fins and seahorses and you name it. Any creature from the wild, whether it's from the land or the sea, you can probably obtain it in Hong Kong. And your work there to bring attention to the people of Hong Kong, who not only are the marketers, but they're also the buyers and the people who come through, to understand that we need the diversity of life. We need wildlife. They need us right now too, to learn from the mission that you're sharing. And this elephant agrees.
He really does.
Well,
So,
I actually, you were quite instrumental, first of all, in getting me into all this, to be honest. I started as an actress in Hong Kong, and of course, I also did a lot of artwork as a youth, but I never thought that I could actually be involved to this extent and make that much of a difference. So it came as quite a bit of a surprise for me. But I wouldn't have dared make the plunge without you, Sylvia. And you've actually been instrumental in getting a lot of people to take the plunge. Thank you so much for your work. With regards to Hong Kong's issues, yes, I think throughout the years, because of Hong Kong's location, we're right in the center of certain parts of Asia, which makes it very easy for ships to come through and ply the trade. So it has been a bit of a struggle, and it still is, but we've actually got a lot done. surprisingly, right now, I think for Hong Kong's government stance, it's almost funny, but true that we actually need to be making a difference in mainland China more first. And when we get the pressure from mainland China in Hong Kong, then the Hong Kong government takes more action. So we've been getting a lot of that done. Getting Hong Kong's ivory trade banned was not easy. It was an uphill battle because Hong Kong's been known as the hub of the ivory trade, as well as seafood and dried seafood. Logistically, Hong Kong has been supplying seafood, dried seafood, to mainland China for at least a couple of centuries, recorded history, if not longer, much longer. And so the Chinese people in Hong Kong are very good at it. We've been drying our seafood, believe it or not, for shipping it overland to other parts of China for a long time. And surprisingly, when you use those products in soups and other things, it actually tastes quite good. We have lots of recipes for that. But the main thing is to first get the public to realize that what's the most important thing now is to preserve and protect wildlife that are endangered. But in order to do that, we have to protect their habitat, what they eat, and some of that may not be endangered. So it's been very gratifying to have the Chinese government fall in place behind this. It's one of the top agendas in China right now. Conservation is very, very important. I think they actually have safe fuel. That would be a little bit ahead of protection of endangered species right now in China's agenda, but it's definitely one of the top 10s. And the one good thing about mainland China is when the government actually says jump, the people jump. So it's falling into place quite nicely.
Well, I know that just with the elephant, ivory, and so forth, that was such an uphill battle, as you were saying. And I remember when you were here visiting the one time, and you were saying that for so long, so many people really didn't believe that the elephants were actually being killed for the ivory. They thought that somehow it was just being sort of gathered up and brought
back,
or it would grow back, or things like that.
I was one of them.
Yeah.
I was actually one of them. When I grew up in San Francisco, and you've met my mom, she had a jewelry store in San Francisco, Chinatown, and when I first came back to Hong Kong, I actually helped her source a lot of her jewelry, from pearls to semi-precious stones to ivory. And so I actually know the ivory trade from the ground up and all the way to the people that retail it and the people that actually wholesale it. So there was one factory that I worked with a lot. Their last name is Ng. There's actually 5 prominent families in Hong Kong that deal in ivory. And I go to their factory. I used to help train some of their artists because I saw that the work could be better and I felt, so I helped with that. And all this time, I was told that the ivory came from animals that died of natural causes.
Wow.
And of course, I found out contrary to that, and pretty much, all hell broke loose. You see, there's a photo there that you're showing now. That's actually not ivory. That's the Rhino Horn. That photo was taken at one of Hong Kong's custom seizures. We have pretty massive custom seizures. It was quite a few years ago, so I don't have the exact numbers in my head right now, but they had 2 complete cargo units, and those are quite big. They go on the back of a truck, and the whole thing gets put into a ship for shipping. And they declared it all as logs, wooden logs for use in making furniture and such. And what happened is when you open the door, the first layer of logs, and they were all standing up straight. Okay, it's pretty bizarre. So the first layer of logs that you saw were actual logs that were made in such a way that they were kind of squared so that they won't roll around. And when you pulled that first layer out, there were more logs, which when you then pull out, you take the lid off of all of them.
Wow.
And it was massive. It was just everything. All the logs were filled with anything from rhino horn to ivory to pelts. It was just a massive shipment from Africa. And what really, all of the deaths that represented really hit me hard. But I think what hit me hardest at the time was seeing some elephant ivory tusks that were really tiny.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and unless I DNA checked it, which I didn't, because it still was the Hong Kong government, and I would need to get it from them to do so. But it could only be one of two possibilities: either they're very, very, very young elephants, or they're the pygmies. And those, I think people who know elephants would know how rare those are. But nothing is sacred when it comes to money.
Yeah, it's just shocking.
So, Sharon, although there are traditions, and you can respect the cultural traditions, it's one thing when the human numbers are small and wildlife is largely intact. That's not true in the 21st century. When I was a child, there were like just over 2 billion people, and now they're close to 8 billion. And at the same time that we have prospered, not only the numbers, but also the diversity, we're losing species. We're losing so many. I mean, just 16 freshwater fish species this past year in 2020 in North America have disappeared. And that's just North America, and that's just freshwater fish. And when you look across the lesser known species,
or unknown,
or those that are not known at all, as well as the obvious ones like elephants and like tigers and like the creatures that are on the screen here now. Many people would look at that and say, "What is that?" They're not found in North America. They're only in Asia and Africa, but they have become a symbol just in very recent times of a combination of despair but also hope, because people, once they become aware of them, and you are one of the champions of making people aware, your celebrity in Hong Kong and in mainland China it gives you authority, it gives you power. People will listen to you. They might not listen to me, but they would listen to you because you're a known figure, and you have a way of empathizing with people and with the animals. So tell us a bit about these creatures, pangolins.
We only have a sculpture of one.
Yeah, this is.
But it's just so nice.
Take it up close to the. It's really little bronze.
A little
version.
bronze version of it. But
Nice
this
little
is how,
paperweight there.
it is. But this is how we really, if we're going to look at sort of having exotic creatures in our household, really exotics, and maybe they should just be in art and sculpture. And your sculptures are beautiful too. We've got some of those to show later on. But tell us about
doing pangolins, but in sculpture, but actually, I have different thoughts and mixed feelings with regards to that. There are wildlife that cannot be introduced into households as pets, but then there are those that can be. And I think it boils down to whether we can be educated enough to walk that fine line with full respect to nature.
Right.
I was involved with breeding chameleons many years ago, and we successfully brought 38 species of chameleons into the pet industry. And if we hadn't done that, they would be gone probably by now, because I think, as you're aware, Madagascar is burning away.
Yeah.
And areas where we had gone to, say, within a 2-year difference, we go there, It was a forest. We were able to find chameleons and eggs and so on. 2 years later, we go back, we stand on the same exact spot, we do a 360, and there's no forest.
No.
It's gone. It's completely gone. So if we had not brought these animals, sort of like with a Noah's Ark mentality into the pet trade, they may be gone also. But of course, we can't do that with everything. With pangolins, they cannot be pets. I actually looked into that. I was actually, now at one point I thought, wouldn't it be great if we had a pangolin as a mascot so I could bring it into the public eye more often? Because you look at how social media works now. And in order to get the message out to people, sometimes you really need to try to do that. You look at the panda, for example, all right? The giant panda is everywhere. And that's because we love it. We think it's cute. And you know, it's more like a pay it forward thing. And if one person thinks it's cute, they'll post it, they'll share it. And the more people do it, the more the animal's known. And pangolins, you look at them, and usually people end up with a question mark and an exclamation mark first. And they want to know a bit more. This is an animal that's been traditionally used in medicine, both in Africa and China. And most of the reasons, I actually think it's amazing how actually the Chinese people and the African people have in common. So in Africa, you have muti medicine, which is, well, it's like magic. In China, you've got traditional Chinese medicine, which has more of a scientific basis. We have many universities throughout Hong Kong and China now trying to work to scientifically analyze the ingredients in traditional Chinese medicine to make it become viable as a properly recognized medicine. And if you think about it, all medicines were taken from nature in one form or another in the past. But once you take something, you shouldn't need to continue taking from the wild. Right. And pangolins, you know, there are recipes for everything, every part of the pangolin in both Africa and China, from their toenails to their tongues. Oh. And almost all of it is just hearsay. It doesn't do what it says it does. If you look into traditional Chinese medicine, what they say pangolin can help you with is if you only take the scales, and apparently you need to roast them to a point where it's really dry, and then you powder it and you mix it into herbal soups and so on. And it's supposed to help with women who have problems with lactation, as well as work as something that would help with, if you have wounds, it would help wounds heal cleanly. But there are so many alternatives to that. Yeah. And the one that really gets me would be rhino horn, for example. In Chinese traditional medicine, they only use it for one thing, and it's actually only used as a catalyst for other ingredients to have an effect in whatever herbal concoction it's put into. And if you don't use rhino horn, apparently you can use other things, substitutes like ox horn from cows, which would be a byproduct. You just probably, I was told, okay, you need to use more. Now, of course, these are things I've never tried myself, nor would I. But I'm just thinking, you know, if people had to use this stuff, then education. Bear bile, for example, the ingredients in bear bile had been lab created for many years, since the 1940s. And you don't need to take it from live bears anymore. But why are people still doing it? So sometimes in order to help change mindsets, you need to step back and try to be in people's shoes. You have to understand why they think and act the way they do in order to well, try to preach the reason why they shouldn't. And if you're in mainland China, well, I've been visiting mainland China for probably over 30 years now. annually, at least many times. And the change that I've been seeing is just shocking. I mean, whole freeways, you could be driving for hours. That wasn't there a few months ago. And suddenly you're driving from one province to the next. The connectivity, the roads, the people in the rural areas are trying to catch up. So the mindsets are changing. But in order to educate, we need to get the information into attractive and palatable forms. So right now, I'm trying to work with China's television stations to get more programming out. Also working with some, they call them KOLs. So a lot of these entrepreneurs in China that could be selling anything from makeup to lipstick to t-shirts in China. They've got their own channels. They could be teaching makeup or whatever, but they're plugging in little bits of information that I give them. And I provide them with photos and the reason why they should be doing it. And we're getting the information out there. Definitely not something I can do alone. It takes so many people to do this.
But it takes somebody to get it started.
Right. And you're absolutely right about that. But you're so right. We've been talking in a few of the episodes, and we'll have another episode coming up where we're talking specifically about the horseshoe crabs and the use of
the horseshoe crab. There's a horseshoe. Are these stuck down?
What? There's no horseshoe crab.
There is a horseshoe crab.
Oh, yeah, there is a horseshoe crab in there.
Yeah. We got your artistic renditions here.
You've got my sculptures.
Horseshoe crab.
Okay.
Horseshoe crab is at the bottom.
I'm seeing your light more than
you see it with the light than the
yeah, but maybe you can show the photos later. I did stop a horseshoe crab because we have them in Hong Kong, and now we have horseshoe crabs in Japan. We have horseshoe crabs in Hong Kong, but the Japanese the government actually has stood back and really made a huge effort to protect them in Japan. They're highly endangered. People are told why they're very important for people. Yet in Hong Kong, I'm not seeing that yet. And it's been an uphill struggle. Of course, as you know, it's a lot easier for land-based animals that people feel more of a connectivity to. But I try to show people footage of us underwater. There's another lady who's a friend of ours. Sylvia knows her very well, Valerie Taylor. She's got a lot of footage with this moray eel. Back in the day, she was wearing this pink scuba outfit, and her blonde hair was kind of like blowing around in the waves. She had a 10-year-long relationship with an eel that I would show a lot of people in China because people like to eat eel here a lot. And it's quite an eye-opener for a lot of them.
Right. Yeah. What are we looking at?
Would it change? Yeah. Would it actually change their mindsets?
Yeah.
Maybe. But yeah. So we're looking at bags and bags of pangolin scales here.
Right.
How many pangolins would it take to fill one of these bags? Good grief.
Yeah. It would be a 4-digit number.
Yeah. And it's that same sort of thing. If we can learn from nature, but then synthesize what we need, but instead of just sort of, pillaging these natural systems for these animals and wiping them out like this.
Use them as like a library and take that information.
One thing though I'd like to stress is that it seems that people often give a really hard time specifically and almost solely to the consumers, which, yes, of course, it's wrong for them to be doing it, but they're not getting the right information. And this is on a global basis, okay? This could be happening stateside or Hong Kong or China, because there's a lot we're still doing wrong everywhere. But personally, I believe that the biggest problem would be the people that are doing the wholesale work and the retail work, the people really in the business.
It's the marketing side, right?
It's the marketing side, and it's how they push things. The big pharmaceuticals as well, actually. There's certain things that I disagree with how they work things, but and of course that's with relations to horseshoe crabs, for example. But I think on a global scale, we need to target consumers and educate them with regards to what they do buy, so that they are wide awake when they think about buying. And I believe that in most cases, they wouldn't end up buying.
Yeah.
Well, your principal organization is Aquamarinian, and of course you're one of the trustees of Mission Blue, but you also have been working for a long time with Wild Aid, and I love their mantra, which is when the buying stops, the killing can too. And Wild Aid, being a champion for them, for the land and the sea, the animals of the world, the diversity of life, it's really, really worthwhile.
Yeah.
So important.
And I love they had a lot of press around World Pangolin Day just a few days ago.
That's right, World Pangolin Day.
Yeah.
If you don't know what pangolins are, check them out.
And it's another one of these animals that's really been right at the heart of the whole, COVID-19 discussion, right along with the bats. They were kind of blaming the bats and the pangolins.
Yeah.
But really
what's with that anyway? People who didn't know about pangolins before suddenly are worried about pangolins.
Right.
Because of the virus.
But it's really just...
whatever it takes to shine a spotlight on the problem, I think it's good.
Yeah, and then getting out there with the kids, and again, as you're saying, just the whole push to education, especially with kids, getting them to...
That photo was taken in Africa when I lobbied very hard. Yeah, barely got to sleep, but it was, I think we were all in tears when they finally announced that unanimously, but for one country, all pangolin species were listed on CITES Appendix 1 that time. Nice. And as you see right there, there's a costume of a pangolin. I couldn't find anyone to make a pangolin costume. I actually made that costume and brought it all the way to Africa with me.
That must have been fun in customs.
I left him in Africa with a pangolin group, and that costume is still doing work. I made several more since then. There's another one in Singapore doing work. So I'm very proud of my pangolin costumes, which has taken me weeks to make each, because nobody in their right mind would want to make a pangolin costume. There's too many scales involved. Each scale had to be sewn and ironed and painted and put on to that. Yeah.
It's not exactly an off-the-shelf item.
No. But it's so awesome. All the big smiles there. They just love it. You can see.
And grown-ups too. We need to.
And what about this one on your shoulder here? Explain this pangolin.
That pangolin is not a real pangolin, but that was that was a pangolin given to me by a lady who made it in Hong Kong. She does felt critters of all sorts. In fact, she mostly makes marine life, and she has made a lot of these felt critters, and she's turned them into keychains or pins. And her fiance is Filipino, and she's Hong Kongese. So they, if that is a term, they actually went to the Philippines. She visited his hometown, people that live by the sea. And a lot of the women there were, well, they didn't have a whole lot to do and they weren't making a lot of money. So poverty was an issue. She brought lots of materials and trained those locals there to make sharks and manta rays and all sorts of marine critters. And then she would help them sell these things and she'd send the money back. And that in turn improved their lifestyle in a great way. So this photo, though, I'm squished between two Ians. Both of these gentlemen are named Ian. And they're both champions for elephants, actually.
Ian Douglas Hamilton, I see.
Yeah.
On the side.
Yep. And Ian Redmond, he's also gorillas. He worked with Diane Fossey. And they're all three of us have a little pangolin on our neck chain there. Yeah. And those are the little pangolins that I brought a couple of thousand of these pangolins with me to Africa that time. and I passed them out to people. And if they wanted one, they had to come and hear what I had to say about pangolins, and they had to promise to vote for the pangolin, or else they couldn't get one. They're recyclable bags, actually. If you unzip the back,
That's right. I've seen it.
You can pull out a.
It has a shopping bag inside, right?
Yeah, so they're very, very useful, and people love them. They're still using them.
And although there are 8 different species of pangolin, it's like a shark. Yeah, there are lots of different pieces, but they all look like a shark. It's kind of a pangolin is a pangolin, and they all do this curly thing.
Actually, when I see the curly thing, my heart breaks a little, because they don't do the curly thing unless they feel threatened and scared.
Right.
Yeah.
Don't they sleep that way sometimes? If I were a pangolin, I'd curl up and sleep like that.
Yes, they do, but the tree ones don't. They stay up there, and they're usually quite safe up there. But when I see these pictures, it brings back very sad memories, because I actually worked with the government in Sumatra before, and one time when I was there, they took down an illegal ring that had hundreds of pangolins. Actually, it was over 1,000 of them, many dead and frozen in a facility. And I'm not sure what went on, but we think what happened at the time was somebody just didn't pay enough. And so they got ratted on, apparently. And the government was pointed into the direction of that facility, which was supposed to be a seafood factory.
Yeah.
You went in there and there was no seafood at all. It was just pangolins. And there were a very small number of them left in comparison that was still alive. There are about 120 of them left still alive. And what I found the most painful when dealing with places like that is the people are very desensitized to the suffering of animals.
Yeah, we see that so frequently, and
no empathy at all.
Right, and I think that you often do feel for the people side of it, and so often we see that when there's an animal trafficking situation, or even in illegal fishing, that so often it's tied back to atrocities against humans as well. You get human trafficking, you get people that are just so downtrodden, and
it's a dark side of what humans are capable of.
And it does tie back into the whole issue of illegal fishing. There was a news story probably 5 years ago where a trawler was pulled over, by the Coast Guard, to check the catch. And there wasn't a fish on board, but the hold was full of frozen pangolin. And
oh, wow.
Yeah. And so, because
they're conduits.
They're conduits. And also that oftentimes, wildlife crimes are not prosecuted in the same way that, if it was a hold full of drugs, if it was a hold full of heroin, it would be a whole nother story. But with pangolin, it's like, it's pangolin, and there may be some repercussions, but it's not nearly the same as if it were some other trafficked item.
Well, I don't know. The penalties in China are getting pretty steep now.
That's good.
Yeah, like death.
Wow. All right. Well, that's steep. Yes.
Yeah. That's not for pangolins, but for pandas, definitely.
Pandas, yeah.
Yeah.
But making that connection, between land and sea, is really such a fundamental part of what you're doing there, and it's so important.
There's more wildlife. This is wildlife.
Yeah.
Sharks.
Beautiful.
They're not cultivated creatures. This is one of Michael's great
Michael's images.
Yeah, I look at people. It's really about people, and how, as Sylvia mentioned, how our population has boomed since Sylvia was born.
Right.
And
I had nothing to do with it. Well,
but,
a little bit to do with it.
Yeah, maybe we need to kind of curb our growth rate a little there, but looking at how people are educated, it's so easy to just point fingers
Yeah.
and just say, oh, those people are terrible, I hate them. And there's a fine line between that sometimes and racism. I'm actually half Chinese and half European. My father's blonde, blue-eyed. So I'm kind of right in the middle, and I see both sides of how things work. And it does bother me a great deal. I try to eradicate that when I see it. But doing what I do, doing what we do, we force ourselves to look at the worst and the best scenarios to keep ourselves educated on what's going on.
Right.
I remember seeing videos of a street in mainland China where they serve cats and dogs frequently. Now, these are domestic animals, they're not endangered. So then we're talking about cruelty and cruelty issues. And in this video that I was looking at, I'm seeing a woman taking a cat. It was just a struggling live cat. And she tosses it into a boiling pot and closes the lid.
Oh.
And there was more going on, which I'm not going to go into. It was just where words fail, okay? But what really got me was that her toddler was walking around behind her while all this was going on. Now, if we grew up in this sort of environment, wouldn't we be somewhat desensitized at least?
Yeah.
We're actually privileged to have grown up in the way that we have. So in order to reach these people, it's been uphill, but reaching them and tuning their mindsets is not easy. It's vital, and it's not something that can happen overnight. Now, on the other side of the spectrum, though, in Hong Kong, empathy has kind of gone a little overboard. We're having a lot of issues with wild boar in Hong Kong. I haven't sent any photos actually because I didn't think to do that. But I can drive out at night near where I live, like 5 minutes away, and find a wild boar.
Wow.
Yeah. 70% of Hong Kong's landmass is actually forest because we couldn't build on it. It's too rocky. It's just not level enough for whatever reason, which is why people are living kind of on top of each other, because there's only certain areas where you can build on. So there's actually a lot of space for wildlife to continue growing. Unfortunately, we lost our last tiger in the 1940s, late 1940s, and people have stopped hunting for wild boar here. It used to be when the local police and firemen on days off, and they're of course licensed to bear arms, they would get permits and go to certain areas and hunt for wild boar. And they would share their kill, and it's pig, it's wild boar. But we have groups in Hong Kong now which they call themselves like Protect the Wild Boar Society and stuff like that. And so before hunters go to an area to hunt, they need to let the local villagers know that they're going to be hunting there in such and such time, such and such a date, so that they keep their children at home, or at least keep them from going into those areas, because an injured boar could be very dangerous to the community. But for the past couple of years, when they tried to do this, these wild boar protecting people would stay abreast of when the hunters intend to hunt and where, and they would go and protest. They would block the hunters from hunting because the wild boar deserve to live too. The problem is these are prey animals that multiply like there's no tomorrow, and there are no predators left. So Sylvie, you've been to Hong Kong a few times, and you remember Central, where we have like our answer to Wall Street, okay? We have skyscrapers, beautiful architecture. We have lots of water fountains, which serve no purpose but to just look good, right, in front of buildings. And we've also filmed wild boars having baths in these fountains recently.
So how do we get people to care about sharks, you know, and protect them with that kind of vigor?
There's another.
So in Hong Kong, we're having an overflow of this. Also, of course, for example, last year we had a couple of people which they had mental issues. You have people like that on a global scale, and people with mental problems, they go and they hurt things, they hurt people, they kill animals. So we had someone who tossed a number of domestic pets out of a window, and most of them died. And this caused an uproar in our local community, public uproar, and it's reached ginormous magnitudes. So the government is now intending sometime this year to increase penalties and so on. But yeah, the wild boar situation, the people are feeding them because they're so cute. Gucci goo, right? A 400-pound wild boar, they're feeding them. They come to people's waste baskets where I live.
Yeah.
They would come here. And you can't, the government's trying very hard to create waste baskets or trash bins that are wild boar proof. But if you've seen a wild boar, these are very strong animals. And when they're determined, they break things.
It's very similar to, I guess, they're, you know, kind of wildlife problems. There are people problems with wildlife all over the place. You know, we see it with people with black bears and other animals where they, you know, they will feed them and almost make pets of them and whatnot, but with bad consequences for everyone. And it's just such a difficult situation at times.
What we're seeing is the disruption of natural systems, and
chaos.
It's not the boar's fault, and we should look in the mirror. On the other side, there may be too many wild pigs in Hong Kong, but the number of sharks in the ocean has declined by 90%. For some species, it's much more than that. They're right on the edge of disappearing. Why? Because of the appetite that was traditional, but now has become, for a small number of people, when the numbers of people were small, and now the number of people is very large, and the appetite for luxury wildlife, from shark fin soup to a whole host of other, especially wild fish. Tuna is wildlife. All tunas are wild creatures.
Well, we had this conversation the other day saying that, you know, we carry on a lot about the issues with sharks and shark fin soup, but tuna are in that same league. And if you're eating tuna, you can't complain about someone eating shark, you know. You know, they deserve the same levels of protection.
Right. Or tiger.
With shark fin, we do have one issue, is because once you dry the fins, you can eat it 100 years later, 200 years. You know what I mean? It's something that you can just put away and stockpile. So even though the population, we're seeing a 90% decrease in shark fin consumption, by the way, over the past 10 years. Okay, as opposed to 10 years ago.
Responsible for
Thank you, Sharon.
Yeah. No, you
just a drop in the bucket, but really they're stockpiling and hoping that people will want to eat them later on. In fact, with many of these things like ivory, people have stockpiled thinking that, well, maybe we can bank on extinction, because once these animals are really gone, it'll be worth more.
Can't get them anymore.
Tuna futures and shark futures,
But this is a picture of hope.
This is a wonderful picture of hope.
This is with Michael in Hong Kong, and David and Jen, David Duboulay and Jennifer Hayes are in there with school kids, and all of them are saying, we'll never eat shark fin. We love sharks. And
sharks alive.
Yeah. A live shark is worth so much more than one that is marketed. So,
you know, a very touching thing happened to me once, a little story that I'd like to share with you very quickly, because I know we don't have too much time. But one time at a banquet, and this was years ago, but they served shark fin soup, which of course my husband and I politely declined, and they brought us, I think it was some kind of corn soup or something, which was very nice still. But we declined our shark fin soup. And at the same table, there was a little girl. She was probably around 8 years old. And she just quietly refused to eat her soup. And her parents were quietly scolding her. And it got to a point where she burst out in tears. Because the parents were doing the, hey, if you don't eat this, it's very disrespectful to your hosts. And it's not good. You're being a bad girl, yada, yada. And she burst out in tears. And of course, everyone at the table looked embarrassed. And, the parents asked her, why won't you eat your soup? So she just loudly and clearly said, I made a pledge at school that I couldn't eat shark fin soup anymore.
How about
And she explained why.
That's great.
She explained why at the table very briefly, that we're losing our sharks. And if we keep eating them like that, the oceans would fall apart. And when the oceans become very sick, then the rest of the planet will become very sick. And we're all going to be in trouble. And everyone else at the table looked really embarrassed.
Good. That's such a brave girl. It's awesome.
Yeah, well, it's working. The education's working.
Yeah.
Well, Yao Ming is another champion who has taken sharks and shark fins on as a cause. I have seen the two of you together. He's very tall.
Yeah, he was surprisingly tall even for me. I mean, I'm not a short girl. And I was wearing platform heels just because I knew I was going to be standing next to him, but I still had to really look up, and it was pretty amazing.
Between the two of you, really, you sharks and all of us really owe you a big favor. Thank you.
No, we're just doing what we need to do. It's something that we all need to do. And Sylvia, you spearheaded everything. Now this here is a cute photo of a humphead wrasse.
Yeah.
I have talked to so many people in Hong Kong about the humphead wrasse because I dare say it's probably my favorite saltwater fish. Favorite as in I would cuddle them if I could, sort of favorite.
Well, they have cuddle you, They do.
I mean, they have personalities. They come up to you, they play with you. I think all wrasses do, actually, Sylvia, don't you? Wrasses are unique. I remember diving one time and there was a little wrasse. It wasn't a humphead wrasse, it was another species. And as we do, we try actually to breathe slowly and use less air so we could stay longer, right? I probably would have taken that wrasse home if it was a cat. There was this little wrasse that played with me throughout my whole tank of air. It would have been probably an hour and a half or something like that. It wouldn't leave me alone. It was just adorable. But explaining to Hong Kong people that they're just cute somehow doesn't cut it.
Yeah.
So I try to explain to them that you actually should be avoiding eating this species if you don't want to eat cyanide. That kind of helps.
Yeah.
Mercury is another issue. A lot of the wild animals accumulate
bioaccumulation,
materials in them that you really don't want in you. It's another good reason to leave wild fish in the ocean where they really can do some good. I love this little carving that you made, 3-dimensional. It's got a
pin on the back.
It is a pin,
right?
But your artistry is just one of your gifts to be able to communicating with art, with words, with music, whatever it takes. I mean, as a scientist, I really am so grateful to those who have the ability to touch people in other ways. And this is one example. And all your other, they were shown in the film, the carvings.
No, the carvings.
And the costume of pangolins, for heaven's sakes. I wouldn't know how to go about that, but you do.
I had help, though. It wasn't just me.
Another thing that I think is just awesome is, you see an animal like this, and then we see that you're also the ace Pokemon trainer, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm still gaming, mind you. I'm still on my game. I'm at level 47 now.
Oh my goodness. But again, recognizing something like that and then taking it into a conservation mode and using that to kind of help get people interested in doing things like a beach cleanup.
Yeah,
I think we've got
that
this
was a stroke of genius.
Yeah. We got this little movie, I think, if I can get it to play here. Here we go.
Yeah, we had people go out there, pick up garbage, and take pictures of their garbage with Pokemon using the application, which was pretty awesome. A lot of people got involved.
And
so yeah, let's have a look at the
little movie here. This is great.
This is all Hong Kong, right?
Yes, it's in Hong Kong.
So it's what we're taking out of the ocean, but it's also what we're putting in the ocean that is causing
styrofoam boxes. I hate styrofoam boxes.
Is this your first beach cleanup?
Yeah.
Yeah, and you play Pokemon Go?
Yeah.
What do you think about today's idea of Pokemon Go cleaning the beach and playing a game?
I think it's very meaningful. I can play and do some tropic surfing at the same time.
Great.
It's a great experience for both of us.
Yeah. Having fun?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Obviously, we can tell he is a big fan of Pokemon. And have you picked up a large bag? Is there a lot of trash out here on the beach?
I found some large fishing bags and some plastic bottles.
It's probably being
That guy showed up in costume.
Or religious release. So these sort of programs, religious release, whilst in concept are really good, releasing non-indigenous and non-native species into a habitat poses a risk to the fish and the marine life or the turtles or the other life that live around this area here.
Well, coconut oil. I think it's originating from the regional spillage like half a year ago.
Washed up to the sea, and the water will eventually came in through the cracks and break it down, and the styrofoam will get into the ocean as like pieces of plastic, and the fishes would think that they are food. They would mistake it as food, and they would eat them up.
I'm representing my mom here because she's actually in the state of Texas, and she's a big fan of Pokemon Go. And how we're gonna use Pokemon Go to collaborate with Earth Day is we actually go out and pick up trash on the beach. So hopefully we can use Aqua Meridian to protect our environment and have fun at the same time catching Pokemon. So far, just here in Discovery Bay in Hong Kong, we have over 500 people helping out. But in the entire Hong Kong itself, we've got 5 locations with over 1,500 people signed up and doing their part as well. So
I love it. That's just so cool.
So you've got to come back and catch some Pokemon right here in our workshop.
Gosh, I miss being there so much. We've been stationary for so long.
I know, it's just terrible. I'm going to try to go to our...
We have some questions.
Yeah, I'm going to try to get out of here.
Sharon, every once in a while I hear a squawk. Are you accompanied
various squawks? And yes, I have a garden out there. It's lightening up now. It's looking slightly brighter outside. It was a bit like Seattle when I just woke up. And we have Zuri here.
There he is.
He's
such a beautiful bird.
Yes, that's just one of the troublemakers in the house.
That's
I'm
awesome.
not going to introduce all of them, but things pass by. There's cats, dogs, birds. We all have to live with our animal fellow earthlings.
Kingdom, just like at this household. So let's go to some questions. Sherry is asking Sharon, what method of media does Sharon use to get the word out promoting education and love of nature in Hong Kong?
We're doing a lot of online stuff. I do a lot of school talks. I still do. It's not limited to schools though. I do a lot of talks at corporations, presentations. I also try to get my friends who are celebrities or KOLs in Hong Kong to add bits and pieces of information while they do their own sort of thing. Sometimes they could be selling lipstick or perfume on their own sites, but they plug a little something as they go. And this actually works on a massive scale in mainland China. I was very shocked at how that really works. Like everyone's on their cell phones in China now. When I was there last time, about a year and a half ago, and I kid you not, Sylvia, this really happened. I saw a beggar on the street. I went over to give him some cash and noticed that he did not actually have a cup with coins in it. He had a little, like a A4 piece of paper with a QR code printed on it, laid on the floor. Yeah. Wow. You give money to a beggar using your QR code. You use like a WePay system in China. And it's mind-boggling, but they're really doing it there on a very big scale. So for these people that they could be just pushing whatever agenda that they want to on the little platforms in China, but it's on such a massive scale. And when they have their followers on, they could be asking for donations, and you could donate like 10 cents even. But when you have enough followers donating at the same time, you end up with a lot of money. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of people making actually a decent living by just doing these social media platforms online now in mainland China. So good. They help a great deal. That's good. And magazines, of course, the traditional way, but we're heavily reliant on computers now.
David had a related question about how to better educate the Chinese on fish consumption in general, that they've been trying using short media on Weibo and WeChat, but it's hard to reach the market in general. This is concern.
So the key to that is getting the people that they follow in on the bandwagon. It's a very attractive issue for people to be an ambassador for now, because the government is fully behind it. So you look great, you're doing the right thing. So it's finding the right ambassadors and getting them to use your videos and speaking on behalf, because hey, face it, we don't all have all the audience that we want.
No. That's awesome.
Role models. Yeah. I mean, it's like Yao Ming and you made such a difference with shark fins. And we need people just generally to understand that the simple thing, fish are wildlife too. And when you make that mental shift, that creatures of the sea, we think of them as seafood. So it's okay. Whatever comes out of the ocean, it's like going to the grocery store, except it isn't.
Right.
It isn't. It's like going into the forest and taking tigers and songbirds. And if people just get that basic concept that the ocean is in serious trouble because of the loss of wildlife. And it's the biggest...
You know, Sylvia, it's so easy.
Trade on the planet is the marketing of sea life. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, but it's really easy to fall into despair. Because in a place like Hong Kong, where, as you know, there's so many people that are very sensitive and empathetic, we still have people that just don't bat an eyelash when they see a fish suffering, because again, it's seafood, SEE food as well as SEA food. They just don't think it's anything else. I go to the wet markets in Hong Kong where they sell fish, and they're put into little trays still swimming. A few times I see that these fish, if it's too shallow, they're uncomfortable, of course, and they would jump out of the water and land on the floor. The people are too busy to bother with it. They just let it lay there.
Oh.
Right? I'm the only person that if I walk by, I see that, I run over, I pick up the fish, I toss it back into the water. I mean, if you're going to eat something, can you at least not let it suffer?
Exactly. We had this.
But there's still,
Mm-hmm.
but when it comes to fish, for some reason, they think that fish don't feel pain, which is so untrue. So
Absolutely.
just getting that out there, it's hard, but we're all trying.
Yeah.
Well,
you have to keep trying.
Absolutely. There was a time when it was okay to kill whales. Nobody thought about whales and their suffering either.
Yeah.
We did change. We did change. Not across the whole planet, but the critical mass. There's been a shift since I was a child. I've been a witness to the change of attitude. So I know it's possible. Songbirds, they used to be fair game too. In some parts of the world, they still are. But in general, there's a widespread appreciation for the value of wild birds alive. The bird watchers of the world.
There's true economic value there too.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a good shift. We have a few more questions here. Scott is asking, what do you see the role of whistleblowers playing in efforts to combat terrestrial and marine wildlife crime? Does Hong Kong have any whistleblower protection or reward laws?
Interesting.
No reward, but for what we feel. But we're there. I get out there. I do stuff like that. We had someone with Sea Shepherd in Hong Kong that this guy, he's hilarious. He's like a one-man show that gets out there. He did a crowdfunding in order to raise enough funds to buy a little boat. I mean, this is a little rubber craft that he zips around Hong Kong in, and he finds perpetrators and he calls them in. Hold on just one moment. Yeah, hang on. My bird here does not have her wings clipped, and someone was about to open the balcony windows.
Oh dear. That would not be good.
That would not be good. We have goshawks here in
Yeah.
my garden.
Oh,
yeah.
They come by and they sit on top of my aviary.
Oh, great.
My birds have become desensitized to what goshawks can do to them.
Yeah, that's right.
They're just window shopping.
Window shopping. Eric is asking, are all of us a bit encouraged by the youth not wanting to carry on with some of the worst cultural practices that they were born into, like eating shark fin soup or dolphin or whale calling, etc.? So I think your story about the little girl is just a perfect example of that, and it really is cause for hope. That she had that courage through.
It's a huge factor because she's, of course, not the only case. I've heard of numerous stories, even from mainland China, where actually there's one time I was having dinner with a very, very rich business owner and my husband, and we were having dinner in Hong Kong, and he wouldn't allow anyone else to pay. So it was another one of his extravagant feasts, as they do. It's a common thing for the Chinese. When you host people at a dinner, you offer them the best. It shows your respect for your guests as well as how well off you are.
Right.
In a supposedly subtle but not so subtle way. But this one time, this one guy ordered shark fin soup, and he was someone very important that my husband was doing business with. And you could just see my husband doing he's about to cover his face and just flee. So I quietly refused my soup and set it aside, and we proceeded to just finish the rest of everything else. And of course, the gentleman noticed what went on, and he asked me, sorry, was the soup not up to your standards?
Right.
Wow.
That's true. It wasn't.
And Stanley literally got up and he was kicking me under the table, but so this is the point where I brought out my tablet and proceeded to give him a 15-minute slideshow presentation of why we don't eat shark fin. And with all respect, I wasn't trying to give him a hard time, but
he asked.
Yeah, he did.
He actually he quietly observed, listened to everything I had to say, and told his secretary that would be his last bowl of shark fin. And everyone within his company and companies, and he owns a pretty large part of Shanghai, actually, literally, should be told to stop eating shark fin.
Wow.
It's amazing. He mentioned to me that his granddaughter was saying something about not eating shark fin, but he didn't realize what it was about until I explained it. So that really helped.
Wonderful. You had that opportunity to really, drive the point home. That's excellent.
So the kids of today have access to knowledge that did not exist when I was a kid. No one thought when I was 10 years old that sharks could ever become endangered, or that it was a big deal to take fish out of the ocean because they would always come back. I always thought that this was a, quotes, renewable resource, and regarded them just as commodities, as a, quotes, resource, instead of thinking of them as part of the systems that, like trees, we need trees, they keep us alive, we need trees, they generate oxygen, capture carbon. Now we know, and the kids know, because the knowledge is there and it's getting through to the education system. Everybody needs to know. Even grown-ups can learn, as you point out. Once the knowledge is conveyed to them, once you get it, you have the capacity to change your behavior because you understand. That's the great gift of humans. We have the capacity to learn and change, especially when we know it's in our best interest. But even for the ethical, moral reasons, why inflict pain on other creatures if you don't have to, or why anyway? We have a chance, I think, as never before during our time, because of the knowledge that now exists, that not only did not, but could not exist not so long ago. This is the best chance. Communication is a part of it. You're in Hong Kong, we're in California, and people are tuning in from all over the place, sharing this understanding that did not exist not so long ago. So traditions matter, habits matter, but we also can change when we understand a reason for it and why. That's exactly what you're doing, conveying this new relationship with nature.
That's great.
What? It's a question. There's
we have
bunch of questions. Oh my goodness.
There are a lot of questions, but we are getting quite a bit over our time. So I just wanted to ask Sharon, can you give us, we're seeing some people are really happy about your Pokemon Go use. I think it's a genius idea. But what are some other things that people can do to be directly impactful? And how can people be in touch with you?
Well, my number is actually not a secret. I actually have it on my Facebook, so I'm not hard to reach. And just look for me. You've got my contacts on Facebook. My group Aqua Meridian, that's AQUAMERIDIAN, also has a web page. So it's really not that hard to find me. But
we can channel
what I try to tell people, it's working with me is one thing, but you really don't need to. Nobody needs to work with anybody to make a difference in your immediate area. If you want to create change on a large scale, then of course you need a lot of help with a lot of people. But like my family, It took a little while, but nobody's eating shark fin anymore there. Because I do have elders in my family. Like my sister, when her daughter got married. Now, when her son got married 2 years before the daughter got married. And when her son got married, we had a fight because they insisted on serving shark fin soup. But when the daughter got married, smart girl, she chose a hotel to host her banquet, which did not actually even have shark fin on its menu.
Excellent.
So there were no more arguments. And you see a lot more of that going on today. But it's paying it forward, getting people to know that we all have the power to make change. Yeah. If you only put your mind to it. It could be a little thing every day, or trying to cause greater impact with more people. But doing it in such a way that doesn't annoy people is also very important. might have the wrong effect.
Find the balance.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Sharon. It's been a great conversation, and we'll carry on. And thank you, everyone. Thanks to our producers, Ocean Elders, and we are going to be back on March 11th, and I hope that everyone will join us then. And
thank you so much again for having me, and thanks to the audience for being there. And I miss you guys terribly. I can't wait to visit again, or have you over here again, or wherever.
I can't wait for everybody to dive in, and I really do appreciate you and all of our viewers who keep coming back time after time to join us as we dive in. But before we go, we have to say, and remember, take care of the ocean.
As if your life depends on it.
As it does.
It does.
It does. It does.
It does. Thank you so much, everyone. We'll see you again next time. Thank you, Sharon.
Thank you. Bye.
All right.
Bye.